Guy, how you doing Wednesday?
What's up? What's up?
Got my Rangers hat on. Obviously, we drafted the #1 overall pick in hockey last night.
They traded up and got somebody at 19. He's a stud. He's nasty. He can skate, and he's edgy as hell. And I know JD was excited because I saw the video, but we're not going down the Ranger rabbit hole right now. We'll save that for another time.
No. I mean, it was a bright spot in a difficult day, man. I guess still reeling from Eddie Van Halen.
No doubt about it. And I know you put your list out. I put my top 10 Van Halen songs out on Twitter. You put your top 5. I think we had some overlap, not a lot. That's what makes markets, as they say.
Hey, you know,
but one of the things
we do.
No, but one of the things that I thought was sort of beautiful about the whole thing, if there is any beauty in it, is the fact that both Valerie Bertinelli, Eddie's first wife, and his current wife were all together with Wolfgang, I guess, on Eddie's deathbed. And I thought that was, that's nice. Clearly, no nonsense or no acrimony and those types of words amongst those three.
No, and while I wouldn't characterize this as that, I mean, you know, there are some rock and roll, relationships, threesomes, if I may,
Sure.
or at least that come to mind here, especially as I read about Tommy Lee coming out of rehab after apparently drinking a couple gallons of vodka a day. But I mean, how about the Kid Rock, Tommy Lee, Pamela Sue Anderson?
So it's interesting you say that. So, okay, clearly that's high on a list, but you know, my problem with that, I would have gone Clapton, Harrison, Patty Boyd in the middle, married to Harrison, leaves Harrison, marries Clapton, Harrison's at that wedding, Paul McCartney's bed. The whole thing is nuts.
The British rockers, nobody did the rock threesome like the British rockers. Obviously, there was Angie Bowie and Mick Jagger, and thus the song "Angie" by the Stones about David Bowie's wife, and you know whether David was interested in her or not. But you know, incredible. I mean, the Brits had the threesomes down. Obviously, George Harrison, yeah. I mean, it was always a supermodel, right? It was always, you know, and as it should
some
be.
Some great interrelation bands here in the U.S. Think about this. Think about what happened with Fleetwood Mac. Think about all the craziness amongst the members of Fleetwood Mac. The 5 of them: Mick Fleetwood and Stevie Nicks, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham. Christine McVie was married to John McVie. And I mean, it's nuts.
No, I mean, and not that I care, but I got to believe Mick was left on the short end of the stick. I could be wrong. How about the Mamas and the Papas?
The Mamas and the Papas were my next.
John Phillips.
I mean, they're
Lisa
all over
Marie,
the place.
Denny. I mean, that I guess it was the 60s. It was free love. And in the 70s, it was just, you know, whatever. But it was extraordinary. And if we talk about 70s threesomes, how about Three's Company, man? I mean, how about Joyce DeWitt? By the way, I mean, you know,
I knew you were going to see Joyce DeWitt.
It's kind of like the Ginger Marianne thing.
Like Marianne is Miguel Gonzalez. I mean, right there, right? I mean, you got to.
Yeah.
I mean, I was never a big Three's Company. You're going to find this. I know you because
you're going to tell me you've never seen Three's. You're going to tell me you've never seen Three's Company.
Annoyed the shit out of me. I'm just putting
it
out there.
I don't. That's not difficult, and you're probably not alone. And I'm not going to throw Chrissy under the bus. Chrissy Snow, by the way.
Was that her? Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, that was her name. I actually, you know, I thought the best character on Three's Company was Larry. He was kind of like that smooth dude wearing the polyester suits next door who was going down to the Regal Beagle and getting his on a regular basis. By the way, it's hard to believe.
I hear you. I can understand why you would be, you know, we'd go that way. But I was not Mr. Roker as in Al Roker, the weatherman on Channel 4, but Mr. Roper.
Thank God you know. Yeah. No, Mr. Roper.
Mr. Roper was all over the place. He was omnipresent.
Well, Mrs. Roper, by the way, has been thrown into many a dare over the years.
Sure.
Well, in case you wouldn't do that, would you? Anyway, so the question is, if you're Pamela Sue Anderson, can you love Tommy Lee and Kid Rock as much? Or is one better than the other? So let's jump into the market where in a day like today, and markets are flying. I guess, you know, we've maybe parsed some piece of stimulus. You know, my view is ultimately that the wall of worry alone is enough to see markets go higher sometimes. And I think the threat or lack thereof of stimulus is part of this. But if you look on the screens today, you have names like Square going to all-time highs. You have the Uber growth stocks. And then you have value, and you have some of the names that we've been talking about, the resources trade, some of these bombed out industrials, even autos are catching a bid. So can you love growth and value? Here I am in the same time.
I like what you did there. That's a clever segue. You really
by the way,
brought us in nicely.
By the way, I want to say Mary McGregor, torn between two lovers, feeling like a fool.
Loving more than you is breaking all the rules.
Breaking all the rules.
Was it Mary McGregor? Are you sure about that?
No, I'm not. Who do you think it was? Again, folks, we are not.
I think it was
isn't planned or mapped out.
I think it was Maureen McGovern is who it was.
No, there's got to be a morning after. I think is Maureen McGovern. I'm not Googling here.
Mary was maybe. So to answer your question, Mary McGregor, Maureen McGovern, notwithstanding. By the way, they happen to both be fans of the show.
That Maureen McCormick. I mean,
huge time. Can I tell you something? I mean, think about when we grew up. So I was born in late 1963. The Brady Bunch comes on the scene. 71, I think, and Marsha was it. I mean, I had no time for Jan. Pain in the ass. Cindy was a little kid.
Yep.
I mean, and Alice was, Alice. If you think about it, although they had Alice playing some 60-year-old, she was probably in her 30s when she did that.
Would you please? Are you telling me you had a bid for Ann B. Davis?
No. See, that's the way you take it. You don't listen. You hear me say it. You were immediately going to go there. What I was saying was, I think you'd be surprised by how old she wasn't. The same way when Carol O'Connor, the man, was doing All in the Family, he was not nearly as old as you probably would have suspected. But I digress to answer your question. Yes, I think you can love both, but you're always going to be more attracted to the one that gives you more satisfaction, to go back to your Stones thing. And they happen to be right now these continued flying names in the growth section.
Wow, look what you did there. So again, if I'm Marsha versus Lori Partridge, again, I would be. I think in that trade, it's really at this point, are you grabbing for a PayPal or a Square, or are you just grabbing for an Amazon or an Apple? And so again, you've similar genre, similar classification, if I may. But what do you do here? Do you grab the names that clearly are COVID winners, or do you go for big cap tech names that have had a little bit of a pullback, but frankly look like they may be going back to all-time highs?
Look, it's the old saying, the hardest thing to do, and I'm not suggesting I've been on these the entire time, I have not, but the hardest thing to do as a trader is to stay with things that have been working, and these things have been working. Yeah, you have a couple hiccups here and there, and I know you have all this rhetoric around what's going on with the big cap tech names in terms of potential Senate hearings and breaking up and all that stuff. I think it's noise. I think you stay with it. And to answer your other question, Susan, would you rather Susan Day, Maureen McCormick? You know the answer to that, man. I'm a Partridge Family guy.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that really got lost behind Danny Bonaducci, and the real magic of that show was probably Lori, maybe even Shirley Jones for that matter. But with that, growth versus value, Lori versus Maureen. Kid Rock versus Tommy Lee. I think we've got it all covered today, Rob.
Fans of the show. I'll talk to you tomorrow.